I'm here today in Bristol speaking to a young survivor called Kayleigh. Now, Kayleigh's exploitation started when she was just 11 years old. Several years later, she went on to testify against her perpetrators in court, and she was cross-examined by 13 different barristers. Now, her perpetrators were found guilty, and in 2015 a serious case review was carried out highlighting the failures of professionals. Now, Kayleigh today has waived her anonymity and shared her story for the very first time, as she feels she's still being failed. Kayleigh, your abuse started in 2010 when you was just 11 years old. Are you okay to tell us what happened?
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. When did this first start?
So I was 11 years old when it all started, and obviously my friend at the time had took me to a block of flats, and then there was a Somali group of men in there, and they basically was like raping me and beating me and drugging me for a few years. Okay. The school didn't really pick up on me not coming into school. I had a social worker at the time who didn't really get involved and basically look into it as much as she should have. My mum was busy at the time looking after my granddad, so she didn't notice me like going missing.
So you lived with your mum when this all started?
Yeah.
And authorities became aware quite quickly, did they?
Yeah, so they were, the first incident that got reported, I think it was the same year that it all started. And then they kind of just brushed it off and said, oh, there's not enough evidence, they ain't going to win in trial. Okay. So they just dismissed it. And then that's when the social workers got involved. And then they were saying the same, like they weren't really asking questions, or they weren't trying to get any information out of me as to like what was actually going on. They were just kind of saying, oh, naughty 11-year-old running away. That sort of thing.
So these men that were raping you, was this part of a gang?
Yeah, it was like quite a big gang. Under the newspapers now, they've got it as like Operation Brook. Okay. Obviously, a lot of the information in the articles that they wrote aren't true. Okay. And the police did say at the time that the reason why they've made up these sorts of like they've covered it a little bit is because they wanted to protect people from doing like riots and things like that, because they knew if they were to put the full information out there it would cause a lot of trouble. Okay,
so they deliberately withheld information about what was happening just to keep peace, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so these men, it says in the report that they were mostly of Somali origin, is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, and how many men exactly are we talking that you remember?
Hundreds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was hundreds of them. They would move me from flat to flat, hotel to hotel. There was brothels hiding in some of the pubs along like the high streets. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
And was you exploited just in Bristol, or did they traffic you to other towns and cities?
So it was mainly in Bristol, but on the final night when I managed to escape before, like I got out the next morning, but that final night that I spent in the hotel room, they were talking of it, selling me up into Birmingham. Okay. So I know these men are definitely linked to multiple different areas across the UK. Okay.
And how long were you exploited for?
I think I was about 13 when it all ended, so about 2-3 years.
And how did you manage to get out?
So the last night, we was in a hotel, and obviously I heard them speaking about selling me up into like Birmingham. Okay. And I just remember thinking at the time, like, if I get out now, they're either going to kill me or sell me to a different brothel, and then they're going to go after my niece. And I just couldn't bear the thought of that, and I just thought if I I'd either die trying or I'd die anyway if they take me. So when we came out of the doors to the hotel, there was a group of them in front of me and a group of them behind me, and it was actually Christmas morning, I think it was. And we came out and I just ran, and there was a bus parked there, and I said to the bus driver, like, please, I need to get home, I need to get home. I didn't have any money or no phone because they took everything from me. And obviously the bus driver was like, have you got any money? And I said no. And then a woman behind me obviously heard what was going on and was like, I'll pay for you. Okay. So she took me to my sister, walked me, got on the bus, and then she walked me all the way back from the bus stop to my sister's house. And then that's how I got back.
You mentioned that you were scared for your niece. Would they often make threats towards your family if you were to leave?
Yeah, they would say to me all the time, like, if you don't come back, because they would take me home every now and then to, like, go in and show my face, and they would wait outside, and they would say to me, like, if you don't come back out, like, we're going to find your family, we'll kill them, and yeah.
You must have been terrified.
Yeah.
Okay. So you ended up going to trial. How did the investigation start?
So I told my sister at the time that obviously what was going on. So my sister and my mum went to the hotel, and then the hotel was refusing to tell them who booked the hotel room. So my sister called the police, they come out, and then they was like looking into that. And then at first the police started turning up saying to me like, oh, are you a prostitute? Are you selling yourself for money or for drugs? And I was like, no.
How old were you at this point?
13.
So you're 13 years old and they're accusing you of being a prostitute.
Yeah. And then after, so they started saying things like that, and I was saying no, like, and then I done like a 15-hour long statement of like multiple stuff that was happening, and then that's when it started to go to trial, and then it opened up multiple other cases too.
Okay. And how many men do you remember that was in that trial?
13, I think.
Okay.
There may have been more that wasn't sentenced, but 13 men got convicted.
Did you testify against all of them?
Okay, so.
Did you testify against all 13 men?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that must have been really difficult. So you was cross-examined by 13 different barristers as a child. What was that like?
It was difficult and scary because at the time I was because I was a minor, they wanted to keep my identity hidden, and I wasn't allowed to stand in the courtroom. So I was in a separate room for like video call, and I just remember like their like the defendant, I don't know what they're called, like the people that were trying to say that I was in the wrong.
The barristers.
Yeah, like they were just like bashing me down with like horrible comments of like, oh, you were just a slag, you just wanted to have sex with older men, you lied about your age, you just wanted alcohol and money. And I was just like, I didn't know what to say.
And was you still 13 at this point?
Yeah, I think I was about 14 when it went to court. I think about
13, 14.
Yeah.
And that's how they treated you?
Yeah, and I was also like in a state, I got taken away from my mum, and I was put in like a safe house whilst it was all going on. Yeah. And my teacher had to come with me at the time because my mum wasn't, for some reason my mum wasn't allowed to come.
Okay.
I'm guessing because she was also a witness, they didn't want us mixing. So it was just me on my own with like my teacher in the safe house for like a whole week, and then every day going to court from like 6 in the morning until like 8 o'clock at night. And then the drive back, they would drive through like country lanes so that like we didn't know where we was going. So like the whole day altogether was like 12 plus hours, like 7 days a week it took to like.
And how long did the trial go on for?
I think it was just over a week, I think.
Okay. Did you feel safe?
I mean, it's difficult because they never really made me feel safe anyway with the the police. I mean, like they would like interview me and then take when they interviewed me, they just took me straight back home, and then they just like left me and didn't contact me again for like weeks and weeks and weeks. Like just left me there, not even updating me on anything. And then since the trial, it's been pretty much the same. Like they were sending updates to my sister at first, and my sister was telling me everything because she was obviously didn't know if I wanted that information or if it was going to affect me. So it wasn't until I turned 18 and then I contacted my victim liaison officer, and then she would then update me every now and then But yeah.
Did you ever feel supported at all, you know, throughout the exploitation, through the trial, afterwards?
Not really, no.
No.
Even now, I haven't had any like professional like therapy or counselling.
Is that something that you'd want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get it for a while, but it's so difficult.
So you've testified in court and they're found guilty.
Yeah.
How did it feel when they got found guilty?
It felt good because I knew that obviously they couldn't then do it to any more children,
Yeah.
and that nobody else would be affected by it.
You must have felt very proud of yourself. You're so young, so brave.
I was a bit proud of myself, but at the same time it was daunting as well, because then the reality hit of like, oh wow,
Yeah.
like this is real.
Yeah.
Like it kind of just felt like a bit of like a story, like
Yeah.
before that, if that makes sense. Like it just felt like a bad dream.
Yeah.
And then once that it all came out, it was just like, oh.
There was a serious case review done after the convictions. So this is in 2015, and it showed that professionals have failed people like yourself. How does it feel to know that these paid professionals didn't do their jobs properly?
Yeah, it's terrible, because like they could have, if they would have opened their eyes to it from the beginning, there's probably thousands of girls that they could have saved, not just from the sexual abuse and harassment, everything else, but probably lives that's been taken too.
Yeah.
And they've just not really cared about it. They just shrug it off. It's just,
Why do you think they don't care about it?
I'm not too sure. They haven't really taken things as seriously as they should have been. And with the convictions and stuff like that, obviously they were convicted, but like now, for instance, a lot of them have now been released from jail early. Even though their sentences shouldn't have ended yet, they've now been released back into the community with no restrictions against them. They've not put bail conditions on any of these men. They're still allowed to come outside of my property and harass me and the police.
Do you think when people are convicted, they should be an automatic ban, that they can never come near you and approach you?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So some of them are now out of prison. How's that been for you?
It's been scary.
Yeah,
That's
I can
the
imagine.
scariest part of it all, because when I was in, it was kind of, that was just my life. Like I didn't really know of anything out of that at that point in time. Whereas like now I have like 2 children, I'm an adult now, and I know how serious those crimes actually are. So it's more daunting now than it was back then, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Have you had any trouble at your home or threats or anything since they've been out of prison?
Yeah, we've had some of these men come in outside of my property, looking through my windows, making threats. We've actually had our front room window smashed, it took 8 weeks to fix, and now we are being charged for the damage that was caused by the man who smashed it. And the police ain't doing anything about that either.
So you've reported this to the police?
Yeah.
And what have they said?
They just said that there wasn't enough evidence, even though I have video footage from my Ring doorbell of the man outside threatening and the window being smashed. I had everything on record.
And can you see this man? Can you see his face?
Yeah.
What's he look like?
It's hard to describe, but he's probably about 6 foot. He's got a beard. He's not of English origin. Yeah, and he comes around. He's brought a child here a few times as well, like a young child, like a 2-year-old.
Okay.
And he was like making the little child like wave as well. And to me, that kind of felt like a hint of, I know you've got children now.
Yeah.
And I'm coming after them too.
I mean, you were 11 years old when this started. It went on for several years. You've testified in court. You've put these men in prison. The authorities surely should be protecting you, and they won't even move you home.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you like to say to them if they're watching?
Sorry, what?
What would you like to say to them if they're watching? If the police officers or if the council or politicians, if anybody's watching this?
Well, you've failed to help me once and you're failing again, and I ain't gonna let it happen this time. I've got 2 children that they don't have voices. I am their voice and I need to protect them. And I will go to any length I can to protect my children.
We hear lots of people saying that lessons have been learned. Clearly in your case, no lessons are being learned, are there?
No.
Do you feel safe right now?
No.
What do you think that should be done?
I think they need to move me and my family and any of the witnesses or victims from these people far away, like to the point where we can then start whole new lives, because just moving us within the area is not good enough, because they're still around. Like, they moved me from Horfield to where I am now, which is it is quite a distance, but it's still not far enough. They've still found me again. They're still here, and I just feel like it's going to constantly be a chase.
Do you think you'll ever be free?
No.
No. Would you like to move completely out the area then and just start again?
Yeah.
Why have you decided to share your story now?
I decided to share it now because I've been trying for so long in hopes that they would tell the truth, and the police and the media and people like that would come forward and say, actually, this is the severity of this gang and this is what actually happened. But they haven't, and I've been waiting so long for them to go back to trial to finish those extra years for what had happened to me other than that one night, and it never did. And I just feel like they're continuing to fail, not just me but all the other victims and potential victims in the future, by not doing what they should be doing and putting it out there and letting everybody down.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it. Thank you.